In this screen, we have the parent screen, which is the project data input screen. Now, before we get started and start going down into the details, I want to point out one thing. Depending upon the kind of company you are and what products you produce, you might have different approaches to the way that this application would actually be used. What we've tried to do is blend a lot of different types of project management groups and product management groups to try to put together something that will provide answers for all the people and all the companies. And that's a kind of a difficult thing to do. But over the many years that this application has been being upgraded and being added new features to, it has changed, and it has, at the certain point that we're at now, provided a pretty good blend of options for people to grow with this application and do things that are meant to make your job much easier and more consolidated. Speaking of consolidated, let's talk about the top levels of the app responsibility to deliver what it's going to give you. First of all, in the product data screen, what we're doing is we're providing the information about a potential project that is coming down from marketing in your company or sales, where you're going to be producing something as a product that is going to go out from your company, and it may be a standardized product. It may be something that is one-off. For example, I worked in a large corporation that had many build-to-print type items. Build-to-print meant that we did separate specifications for each new build-to-print item, and then we did the design and the drawing tree based on that design from the specifications. Then we picked vendors for the assemblies and sub-assemblies that we were not going to produce, and those systems were sent out to vendors to be produced, and we tracked the cost and delivery and deliverables from those. So basically what we're doing is looking at those different levels. We're looking at what you're going to produce in your company, what's going to be done outside your company, and what little things that you are going to job out that may be somewhat insignificant but are still had a part of the process of building in and bidding those items. And we're going to be talking about how when we get down to the project members and how they're bidding their individual tasks that they're supposed to do, to include building their design if they're an engineer and doing the specifications that are required for the item that they're going to be building. Now, if your company does not do specifications, you're building to print and you don't need specifications, which is kind of hard to understand because you need something to guide you through the differences in each project that you're working. But if you don't have specifications, or you are receiving all of that from some other company and you're just building off of their prints, then you may not have to do some of the tasks that are involved here. But I would assume what you want to do is build up boilerplate and understand that each time you do a new project, that it's to your benefit to capture as much data as possible about how it was designed and how it was built. You can also use the specifications from different companies, but you need to still have team members building whatever you're going to build, and the things that you're going to be delivering in a form where you have drawings and everything that are pertaining to those, unless they were provided by the original company for you just to build to print. But nevertheless, you need to have some of the things like budgeting and management as far as the individual task that is going to be produced and all the things that are involved with that task. Okay, let's take a look at some of the things that are on this screen. First of all, I want to point out that this is an international application. It is done through many different countries, and when an application is brought up online and you're starting to use it on your iPad or your iPhone, that you can change the currency that is being used by clicking on this thing or tapping. In this case, I'm using the cursor on a machine so that you can see how I'm actually doing things and moving through them. But you can see there's about 53 different money symbols that are in here for different countries around the world. So you can basically add that particular currency to your application. It is a global, meaning that you can pick it anywhere you're at. You can see that these say that there's a dollar sign ahead of them. In this particular case, I can go in and I can change that throughout the application where it'll be your local money symbol that is being used. Now let's talk about the project number, because this is kind of critical. Typically in countries and different companies, there are different ways to do project management. in England, for example, they would probably do more or less what the U.S. does, but in many other countries, maybe in Asia and or in North Africa or even South Africa, an area of the world, or even in South America, they may take a different kind of an approach to what we call the project number. A project number is a global number that is assigned to the entire project, and it is on all screens from the parent record, which this is. It recognizes any of those screens where this project number is, that this is the project that it's working off of. And it is created on the main screen in the parent record, and then all the subordinate screens, which are called child screens that are used, use that number to identify the project that is either the specification, the drawings, or the team management, or the parts and pieces that go back into that particular main job number. So that is the project number. The next thing we want to have in here is some information about as far as the production or organization that is doing the work. In most cases, it's called the operations group, but the record date in this case is the record that this is created by. The project date start would be the date that is going to be the first time the kickoff of the project meeting goes, and everybody is getting together to start drawing up specifications, drawings, and all the other stuff that goes along with the project. Then the project name. In this particular case, this record is a power plant control system for Northwestern Electric in Lewistown in the United States. What type of project is it? It's an electric power plant design and a control system for that power plant. Contact is the Northwestern Electric company out of Seattle, is the main company that we're talking to. The actual start is the actual start. Maybe the project started on the 7th of September, but there may be project meetings and vendor meetings, and the actual product that you're going to be building or products did not kicked off until, in this case, the September 30th of 2015. The planned start was for the 29th, so this is one day late. But the planned end, which is the end of the whole project, is February 28th, a year later, roughly. Actual end date is the actual date that the project terminates and all things are completed, and that should be roughly the same date as the planned end date or earlier. The proposed budget, this is what's coming out of marketing, saying that this is the cash that they expect to bring in for doing the project. And then there's the project budget, which is less than the proposed budget because this has a margin, this does not. Of course, this has G&A and profit and overhead in it, where this one does not. This is what the operations group is using to do the project, so that would be the number that is expected that they would work within. If they break the budget or bring it in under budget, that is wholly the process of this application to find out if they're on budget, on time, and everything is working like it's supposed to be. In this case, I call out a project chief engineer. There should always be one top engineer who's in charge of the entire process. And he may not be the actual project manager, but he could be the project engineer, and he may have several project managers depending upon the entities that are being built. They need to have individual groups of people and teams that may be working on different processes and tasks in order to complete individual parts of the end item. The project design engineer, this is the chief guy who is actually running the design and makes sure that all the project managers and engineers within the group come to him if they have design issues. And then the overall commitment by the project chief engineer is to make sure that all the project managers and chief engineer himself and the design engineers work together as a team and keep on budget. The project design assistant, that's a person who, in this case, is going to be noting some of the things that are crucial to getting the project done and keeping track of all the notes about the major screen project of how things are going or not going correctly. That is where the project chief engineer and designer get together and discuss and try to understand how those things can be remedied and work with the project managers in order to make sure that it happens, so the project managers can work with their engineers and task each one of them to do what they have to do to get on time and on budget. Let's cover some of the popovers that are on this screen so that we understand how these can be used. If I click on the first one, it's called the project listing. And this is an overall listing similar to a list view where you can pop from this window to any window for a different project. And the purpose of this is that you have a way to navigate through the different projects that are currently underway very quickly. I can pop on that by just tapping on this button right here and go to another project from this project. Say I want to go to 203. As these sequence through, the newest project in the company is the top level. As you're going through project numbers, this would be the next number in line, and then it would tell you what the project is and who the chief engineer is on that project. If you want to visit that particular project and its main screen, you would click on this button to go to that screen. Project members. Now for each project, there are individual members for that project. In this particular case, we're looking at the project number that this one is working with. Since I'm on the parent screen and I'm looking at the project for the P000200, then that is the project that these team members belong to. Now understand that these team members may be spread up around between different projects, and they're assigned at different times to different projects to do different things. So it takes a lot of responsibility on the part of the project manager to maintain the organization and the staff to make sure that they're doing the proper things on proper days and they're scheduled correctly. By scheduling it, you have a start and an end date for whatever this particular person is doing. If I click on this button here, it's going to take me to his work tasks and where he is actually doing things on this particular project. You can compare each project to each one of the team members in your company to see where they're working and what days they're working and what tasks they have to do and what kind of task time they have to do them, meaning either days, weeks, months, or years. So going down through those is really important. Now I've included some sample data in here that you can overwrite. Basically what you would do is go into the individual projects at the primary page, which is the parent screen, and you would alter the data and then alter the project budget and then go ahead and individually recreate your new projects based on this. So I have about 5 things in here that have a little different look and a little different approach to what they're doing, so you can get an idea when you're learning the application that you can see different elements on different screens with people doing different things. Now the dollar sign up here is normally not highlighted. I highlighted it by clicking on the main screen on here. If you want to click on this, this will bring up the keyboard again and a selector where you can select on any dollar sign or money symbol what that money symbol should be for your application that you're doing at the time. This is where even if you're an individual company doing business, say like in the United States, and you have somebody that's doing everything in a different money, you can change that and cover that in your application for that particular project with a different money symbol. Let's go back now. We're going to look at the next one, which is the budget portal. Now this, interestingly enough, back in the 1980s, we didn't have anything, even a spreadsheet was kind of rare to have one that would be able to be used across the company. And the company that I was working in, we had a mainframe application. The application itself cost over $1 million. It was called Cyberonics, and what it was supposed to do is track all the individuals in the company, their cost, and what they were doing on every day, and who was working where and what tasks they were working on. To try to capture that in this application and make it functional, I've managed to do something that is pretty straightforward. Basically what you're looking at is a team member approach to things and where they're going to be working and what they're going to be doing as far as budgeting. And what we do is we roll up all the team members that are in this particular project, and we can scroll down here to see who's on the project and see who's there. Now, if I wanted to see this in more detail, what I can do is I can either go edit the screen for the individual for that project element that they're working on, or I can go to the project itself that they're working on, and at the level of that individual record, I should be able to see what they're committing in time, materials, and labor to make sure that they're getting that billed correctly. Now, I'm just throwing some typical numbers in here just to have something in so you can see how they work. For example, the project started for this guy on a date. Now these dates are from a different time period than the actual application. I did not bother to go through and change these and update them from an old project. But basically what they're doing is they're taking each individual task that they're doing, sort of a major task, and they did it out by day, by day, by day. And they showed them their own individual records where they're going to be spending their time. Now this is a great way to manage your individuals, because if they're not going to be working on a specific day and they're working on a different project for maybe a week or so where they're doing another part of another task, then you can show that in the actual P200 area for this particular project. So they may be absent for that particular period of time. So if you're tasking somebody to do something, then you want to see if they are in the project for that period of time. Now, needless to say, this is kind of intensive in that you have to manage things really well because you may have lead and lag in your project that may cause some issues. Let's give you an example. Say, for example, we're going back in this project to the power plant control system, and the shelter for the control system was supposed to be delivered in order for this task to start on a specific day, and it had to be delivered prior to that date in order to have it installed on the concrete base so that they could work on it. And what happened, it was 10 days late. What does that do to your schedule? Of course, there's now the lead and lag issue is a lag situation where you now have days where you're supposed to be doing something where now they have changed. Well, what you can do is you can go to this screen and then decommit this time and put the person on another task in another location so that they can be doing that work on that other project. So it's obvious that this could happen and you can go back and forth. Now, why would we do it this way? We found through more than one company that I've worked with that we had things that were similar to what Microsoft Project does. Microsoft Project is a pretty darn good project management system, but what we found out was it's not good at the individual level. If you have individuals trying to put their input into project, it's going to take a lot of time and it's going to suck up a lot of man hours that don't necessarily need to be at that level of the tasks. If you have individuals that are being tasked to do something and they're looking at it by day, and the project managers work in conjunction with each other to make sure that everybody stays on time and does what they're supposed to, then they would manage this and not the individuals. Even the project management level sometimes can be very tedious because they have to work with other project managers that have demands and how they're going to impact other projects if they have a lead and lag situation. Okay. Now, it's not easy to do project management. That's why it is the concern of project managers above to make sure that things happen when they're supposed to happen. Now, down here at the bottom, you can see what I've done is I put what is called a lookup list, and you can see where people are at and what projects they're on and where they may be working. So if I went and looked at the 203 project and I clicked on that, as far as editing it, I'm looking at that individual on that period of time, and I can jump right back over to the other side of the screen and I can see where he's at and what projects he's actually working on and what days are committed on that particular project. So this is not that hard to understand when you're moving between the different screens and the responsibilities to the project and the project managers across the application. So if I went back to Alex on the 200 project, I can see what his time and hours are and where his summaries of all the things that he's supposed to do and what his budget labor is and his individual things. For example, the sum for facilities. Maybe there's facilities that is a cost item where they have to actually spend money to allocate time and materials for facility issues. It may be something on a lathe that's being done. Even though there's labor on that and he may be doing it, he's using facilities in the company. Outside labor and outside materials that are being done, equipment. If you have to have equipment to do specific things and you have to either buy it or use it or rent it, lease it, whatever, that would be part of the cost. Some of the design drawings, this is all the cost to have the design drawings developed. If you're a designer for the drawings, then you would be bidding your time in here. And the sum of other. What is other? Those are unforeseen things that don't fit into any other category, but they come up. And one might be, for example, I was the logistics manager for a large corporation, and I was responsible for doing the marketing documentation for new items that are coming out of production, plus all the manuals, and I was supposed to make sure that my costs were also included in the bid. So that would be where I would put my time. Now you have the sum of travel. If during the process of this program and project that you were going to be traveling, you'd put that in, air and ground travel and travel expenses. Travel expenses are obviously those things that occur during the travel, and this is the actual air and the ground travel costs. And then the sum of his entire project would be the sum of the amount of his budget, and that would be included here. And then notes over here about expenses and times or other things that are occurring that are related to the things that he's supposed to be doing. So that as project managers go through these screens, they can see anything that may affect the actual progress of the project. Okay, well, let's go back to the main application screen by navigating back to project data. And the last thing we want to look at is the vendor screen. there is a thing called vendor selection, and what happens when you select your vendors, you go in and you take and have meetings with them where they provide either a RFP, RFQ, or whatever they're going to send to you to say that they want to build whatever it is that you're going to have built. Well, you would compare the quality of their proposal or project input that they're going to be doing to make sure that you pick the individual vendor that will supply the best time, project, and the best materials at the best price. So these are people that are getting selected to do the project, and their particular part of it would be identified in the actual project record for the individual vendor, and you would see up here deliverables that the projects would be doing for you and who's going to be doing them, what companies or whatever. In these cases, this is the management part of what the project manager will be doing, working with vendors and his own group to make sure that everybody stays on time and on budget and keeps meeting notes and information about the progress and things that may be happening where there are issues. And we'll go back through these screens in more detail later on. But we're going to go back to the main data screen and close out this particular video just to say that if you have questions and you don't understand what I'm doing or you have a different approach for doing things, please give me a contact and I can discuss that with you and see if there's something that you don't understand or maybe the application doesn't fit your needs. Thank you.